Hey guys, welcome back to Pages, Panels, and Pictures, your one-stop spot for all things comics, movies, and more. We are back after what feels like an eternity away due to technical difficulties with our Moon Knight Episode 6 review. This episode was one of the most unique pieces of MCU content in years, and we at P3 cannot wait to talk about it, so without further ado, full spoilers ahead, and let's get right into it. So I want to start out by saying this show, from start to finish, was pretty damn fantastic. It was probably top 3 best Disney Plus shows in my opinion.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't put the quality over WandaVision, and I wouldn't put my enjoyment over, weirdly enough, Hawkeye. But,
yeah.
I loved Hawkeye. But, it was great. We had a lot of, coverage on the many mental health issues that Mark/Steven suffers from. We got a lot of information on his mom and his family history and how, well, for lack of a better term, fucked up it was. But and episode 5 really dives into those memories. Episode 5 I know we didn't cover because, well, technical difficulties for a week, but it's all good. We're back now and we're going to talk about it here quick. Episode 5 takes place after the episode where he gets shot and killed. He ends up in Duat and talking to Toweret. She pretty much sends him on a journey, him and Steven, to weigh their hearts and balance the scales before they get to the gates of Osiris so that they can get to the Field of Reeds and live a peaceful afterlife, which is obviously not what they want. They want to get back to the real world. But
to return to the living is how they kept putting it. Return to I love that. For
real. It feels like it's cool that there's a hero that's so, haunting feeling.
Yeah.
He's definitely doesn't feel like evil at all. I mean, given what we'll talk about with the post-credit scene later. Except for that. But, overall, I like the ghoulishness, but also that he still maintains the nobility and heroism that, we want from, a protagonist in a Marvel series.
Absolutely.
But, while they're in the Duat, they have to run through a sequence of different memories from Mark's brother's passing to his forming of Steven, the abuse from his mother, and it finally gives us the actual origin story of how he became Moon Knight. Gave us confirmations on a lot of stuff. Raoul Bushman, which didn't make an appearance in the first season. I thought that might have been him, the character from the post-credit scene, but then it was revealed to be who it is. And they definitely set us up for a season 2, and I know Oscar Isaac talked about how there was no Moon Knight happening in the foreseeable future after this, and I just can't believe that that's true at this point. It's made too much money, it has been too successful, and they set the seeds up really well for an independent story that they can do at their own pace. A lot of the MCU has to run off of the pacing of the cinematic universe as a whole, which is now in 2025.
Right.
Moon Knight doesn't have to do that. It doesn't even have to specify what time period it is. We know it's after the snap, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. At this point, I don't even think that has to even be addressed anymore. At this point, I don't think anything else will take place pre-snap.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's done.
Throughout these memories, we get all of these experiences that let us know exactly why Mark Spector is the way he is and how exactly Stephen Grant came to be.
Right.
And you can see Mark throughout the episode start to deteriorate a little bit. He starts to crack, and by the end of the episode, he is having a mental break. And then memories, and then we get to the real world. Layla's trying to figure out what to do. They don't really do anything with her in that episode at all, actually.
Right.
But and then we find out that balancing the scales is possible through Mark accepting himself, and we'll later find out in the 6th episode that he has to accept Steven to actually become whole. It doesn't matter that at the end of the episode, Steven falls off the edge of the boat into the sands of the Duat and becomes one of the lost souls trapped for eternity. And
because that's only one part of a soul.
And I don't think the inner turmoil within them and the chaos that the scales were representing was because there was 2 souls. I think it was the fact that Mark, similar to Bruce Banner and the Hulk, Mark refused to accept who he was. Mark is and always will be a man with DID at this point.
Multiple personalities.
And, like, you can't accept yourself without accepting Steven. And, like, in the 6th episode, when he accepts Steven, we see that comes to fruition.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But, 5th episode was a banger. It was my favorite in the series, and, gave us a lot of cool shit. It gave us a lot of hints that maybe Khonshu was involved way longer than he alludes from the Egypt tour. They honestly allude that he could have had something to do with his brother's death, which in the comic, Khonshu has a lot to do with Mark's past. He pretty much grooms his mind to be a fractured mess for Khonshu to be able to manipulate and take over. But I don't want to spend too long on the 5th episode, so we'll dive right into the 6th episode, and it starts in the thick of it right away, honestly. It starts with Arthur Harrow trying to release Amit, and they have to go to the Temple of the Gods because that's the place where their magic is the strongest.
Right.
And on the way there, Layla hitches a ride with them, stows away, and eventually is contacted by the corpse of a guard who is actually Taweret. And
is that how you say the name?
What, Taweret?
Taweret?
Yeah.
Dude, I've because I watch everything with subtitles on. That just comes from my kids having kids.
Yep.
I almost can't even fucking hear it.
I'm just deaf.
Is that what it happens to you too? I cannot hear it unless I can see.
And like
it.
I be snacking, so I can't hear over my munching sometimes.
I'm so fucking glad I felt that. I thought I was alone on that one, but
this show as a whole had so many different names, and like
I just love the character.
Like Ushapti, I was pronouncing Ushakti the first episode it was introduced, and then Ushapti with a P, and then I found out in the 5th episode that it was Ushabti with a B, and it's awesome to see it. It's a learning experience because Ushabtis are a real like relic within Egyptian culture, and I love Egyptian mythology. So
and they hold souls.
They're essentially idols. Yeah,
we need to have a new segment that studies relics.
I'm definitely down. I fucking love Egyptology and archaeology. I'm a master archaeologist, if I haven't mentioned that before. But
we could call it the alchemy of archaeology.
Let's do it.
That sounds awesome. You heard it first. Holy shit.
But
perfect.
But so Taweret contacts her and tells her that Mark is trapped in this purgatory and he is trying to find his way back. She needs to get to Khonshu. About this time, Harrow's men peace out from this spot. They get to the temple. They storm that shit. They attack all the Ennead.
Yeah.
And they do, in fact, manage to release this insane CGI crocodile goddess, Amit.
So cool.
She looked fucking insane.
So cool.
The CGI quality is not the greatest in in all the Disney Plus shows, but
it's not the worst.
it looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, I say it's not the worst.
It looks better than TV quality, which is what I expected. So it's already exceeding expectations. But like it's a stylized CGI compared to like the actual MCU films and stuff. Like
due to it having the CGI so much in this episode, though, I feel like it was filmed differently. Like even that one scene that we'll get to later, where like you called it like the Power Ranger scene where he has the sticks and shit. The way like when Harrow like gets blasted back and like he does that whole little flip deal and he falls. Yo, the way like they shot it. And maybe, I don't know if it's my Disney Plus settings that I had it playing in widescreen, but like it was just a beautiful shot, like cinematic. And I was thinking like, this looks like a fucking film.
And I think this episode, more than any of the other episodes in the series, toyed with those elements. There's like, when the cult was climbing the pyramid to get into the Temple of the Gods, they just did the random like super high speed zoom in on Harrow and stuff, like a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that since like Iron Man 1 when he hits the tank with the rocket. And it was weird but cool. I loved all the different themes. Everything felt so different about this series as a whole. And like I got Loki Gator vibes from Amit, specifically her design, because well, they don't look like alligators or crocodiles.
Yeah.
They look like these CGI original creations. I imagine Loki Alligator wouldn't be an actual alligator. He's like a magical construct that looks like an alligator. So he would look cartoony and stuff. And this thing is not actually an alligator. It's a god with the features of an alligator.
Right.
So
the likeness.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that Marvel's doing their own thing with the MCU. I know these gods have representation in the comics, but it's normally like old school, like Jack Kirby art quality renderings. So like, I love the updated aesthetics of it all. Tararet looked great, Amit looked great, and Khonshu in all his forms looked fucking awesome.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, man. But from here we get, well, actually it's technically simultaneously happening. Layla manages to break the Ushabti of Khonshu.
Yeah.
Releasing him. He pretty much tries to back her into a corner to let her be his avatar, but she pretty much tells him to go fuck himself. You're going to help regardless because, well, you owe it to Mark because he died serving you.
Will you protect the travelers of the night?
I love Khonshu's presence, bro. It's just, he just sounds like old and regal and like...
Yeah.
Sometimes. I know I know like he shouldn't sound regal ever really because he's Comic Khonshu is the biggest piece of shit, and as we'll get to later, he's a piece of shit in the show more than we even knew since like the conditions were revealed of their agreement. But
I am the guardian of the night.
Yeah, that shit. My man said, "I am the god of the night sky."
Yeah,
and
just fucking move that shit.
And I mean, no punishment this time. The Ennead's all beat to shit by this point from them raining hellfire upon their entrance into the temple. But from Khonshu's release and Amit's release, we get a big old little god scuffle in the temple. Khonshu and Amit go to work, and at this point, Mark finds Steven in the duat. He decides to leave the Field of Reeds, despite Tararet warning him against it and advising against it.
Yeah.
He ends up finding Steven, and in one of the lines that I felt was one of the cornier lines in the recent MCU, he revives Steven with the Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Friendship, and he hits him with the "My greatest superpower has always been you."
Yeah,
and
they literally
they were tugging on my heartstrings really hard at the start of it, and then they hit me with that fucking quote, and it just pulled me out of it right away. It was really weird. But
they literally took the ending of the first Pokemon movie where Pikachu was stoned.
Literally, where Pikachu where the Pokemon tears revive him. Just Mark Spector tears revive Steven.
I love it.
But this turns out to be what it takes to balance their scales. They become whole finally, and the gates of Osiris open. Tararet whisks them away in the boat that Steven was ripped off of, and they blink back into reality. Mark is revived. He actually festers out the bullets like Wolverine or some shit. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, like, but like the fact that they're in his body, that means like the suit had to have like festered them out of him like a fucking legit Wolverine regeneration process. It's so gritty for the MCU. I love it.
So cool.
And I know the Multiverse of Madness, I've heard a lot of like non-spoiler reviews and stuff, and it sounds like that. It's pretty much confirmed by multiple big sources in like the YouTube community that it's the darkest installment in the MCU so far. And that's crazy. He said, or Eric Voss from New Rockstar said that it's the highest body count in any MCU project so far.
And this is strange.
Yeah. So, get ready for that. But this show was the perfect introduction to all that. It gave us gods, it gave us death, it gave us destruction, it gave us just complete and utter grit, and it was just fantastic. But I digress. Mark is back. He is his revival sequence is really cool. It's backed by the original like quote from Khonshu fucking during his initial possession of Mark, and it was awesome. He suits up for the final time of the series technically and makes way to rejoin with Khonshu. Steven pretty much bitches him. It was kind of a comedy sequence, and I found it enjoyable. He explains to him that Mark and him are a package deal, and they are the ones who saved Khonshu's life. Khonshu agrees to release them once Amit is resealed. Yeah. Then, on the other side, where Layla is hanging out, Layla agrees to become Tararet's avatar, at least temporarily. But Harrow's alerted of her presence and starts fucking up the temple, and I thought this was the time for the obligatory giant purple beam of light, but alas, it was not. But Harrow's followers start conducting homage judgment amongst all the civilians of Cairo. And first off, they were sucking so many souls into Amit, which means why is everyone in Cairo a piece of shit? Like, I was so fucked up. It was like Shanki, the Dweller in Darkness, but like, that steals any soul. This was stealing shitty souls, and it was everyone.
You gotta think, though, in reality, that would probably be way worse.
I mean, I guess that's true. Like, humans are evil.
Yeah,
but,
way worse. Like, mass genocide, way worse.
But,
what a thought.
From Amit's absorption of all these souls, it goes to Layla. The introduction of her in her new costume as the Avatar, and oh boy, she is a baddie. And I'm confused. She is like the Avatar of the Goddess of Rebirth, and she is a hippo, and she looks like a bird, her outfit. Yeah. But I assume it is a representation of the Scarlet Scarab costume from the comics. And Layla in the show has had a lot of she's had a lot of alluding to being the character.
Scarlet Scarab, yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. Then we get Moon Knight versus Harrow.
Yeah.
And Amit versus Khonshu. It's like a dual fucking ended big fucking kaiju battle. Dude. For some reason they grow up to like 100 fucking feet and start scrapping. These gods were 7 feet tall in the temple. Yeah. It was so weird. But Mark and Khonshu start to get their asses kicked at one point before Layla flies in to save the day, and yet again looking like a baddie. Mark and Steven also agree. They start to simp over her. Steven pops out in yet another well-timed comedy sequence. I'll give it to Moon Knight. They're good at this comedy shit.
Yeah.
They jumped the shit out of Harrow, and somewhere, where the fuck did Steven learn how to fight? He just started going ape shit with the batons.
Well, in episode 5, when like he realized that like, well, if Mark knows this, I do too.
He still kind of just fought them like a scared rabid animal on the boat. So I don't know. I kind of just chalked it up to the fact that him and Mark were unified now. So like he would pick up on Mark's natural talent and Mark's learned skill, but this is the scene we were talking about earlier in the episode where we were talking about it looking like a Power Ranger fight sequence.
Yeah.
It's like anime style where it's almost like first person from both of them like attacking him. You see the batons and it's just fucking honed in on Harrow, just staff twirling and fucking deflecting everything.
So cool.
It was very Super Sentai, and as corny as it was, it got a laugh out of me, and I'll take that in the MCU. I love it. I enjoyed it, and that's all that matters.
Loved it.
But from there, we get, well, the weird "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" scene. It was fresh out of Wonder Woman. Fucking Layla stops a bus from hitting a little Egyptian child, and she gets all inspired by her. It was literally ripped just from fucking the Snyder Cut Wonder Woman scene at the start of the movie.
I'm a sucker for it, not gonna lie.
It was a necessary thing to like. It's an inspiring moment for little girls.
She will have her own show.
And like even Chelsea, when we were sitting there watching it, Chelsea was like, "See, I love her. She's just like me." Amit ends up beating Khonshu randomly. Like they just get the upper hand, and Harrow stabs his cane into Mark. We're gonna kill this guy a third time, I guess. Yeah. And there's that fucking beam of light, but it cuts off, and we get the final blackout of the show, and well, Mark is about to get fucked at the start of it, and then it just cuts to the blackout, and then cuts back, and he has Harrow's axe to his forehead, and at first I thought he was dead, but he pretty much just has him beat unconscious, and then it starts to pan around. All of his men are fucking dropped, beaten, probably half of them dead, and the landscape is just decimated, and Layla's just like, what the fuck happened? And Mark doesn't know, Steven doesn't know. This is the final time we will have to question who this fucker is. I
just want to know what his Moon Knight costume looks like.
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine, because the different personas don't have different suits in the comics normally. Yeah. Like they're all just Moon Knight except for Mr. Knight himself.
What if he's just like a conquistador?
Senor Knight. But from this point,
this is such a racist podcast.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to edit this one
horribly.
But from this point, Mark and them drag Amit to the Temple of the Gods, and they proceed to seal Amit inside of him. It's actually a simple process compared to what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
Mark refuses Khonshu's will and refuses to kill Harrow. He ends up demanding that he gets his release from Khonshu, and all is said and done, seemingly. They don't really say any more about Harrow. We get this weird sequence where it fades to white, and we're back in the asylum. When that happened, I was like, bro,
yeah,
we joked about this, and if this happens, I'm going to lose my fucking shit. And, no. This was the most confusing scene in the episode, and, I don't even have a definitive answer. I'll dive into YouTube, and we'll get back to you guys. Probably much not, because, well, we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange by tomorrow. So,
fuck, dude.
I cannot wait. But Steven's talking to Harrow, and Harrow's pretty much trying to explain to him, like, what's real and what isn't, like he was doing the whole time. And, we find out that, for some reason, Mark and Steven are together again, and they're able to communicate with each other, so it's obviously not the same type of psych ward situation it was before. And, they see a trail of blood from Harrow's feet.
Yeah.
And Harrow questions why he's bleeding. We don't know why this is happening. We don't know where this is. My thoughts on this are, Taro explains to us that all these afterlives are similar. The ancestral plane, this, from what we can assume, like the soul stone sequences that Thanos and them went through. And I think that this sequence with Harrow was one of those manifestations similar to like Young Gamora, or like the deleted scene where Morgan Stark all grown up talks to Tony in the Soul World.
Right.
I definitely think that that could be an explanation for it, because I know for a fact that this psych ward is a manifestation of his afterlife. There was a confirmation to us by Towerette. So this felt like a different different vibe. If it wasn't a different aspect ratio, but it was like a different filming style. It felt cinematically different than his previous interactions inside of the psych ward.
He was like dreaming.
He was in control this time. If it was more lucid than before. And so pretty much Mark and Steven realize that Harrow is not in control, and he doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. And it pretty much just cuts to Mark waking up in the morning. We hear the same song from the first episode, the "Every day I wake up," blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was yet again mind fucked. I was like, bro, what if he wakes up and that whole series was a dream, and he's like not actually even Moon Knight? And
that's how they write off Oscar Isaac.
And that would have been insane. It would have been like the original story of the Sentry in the comics, where like they pretty much got mind wiped and forgot that he was a superhero for 40 years.
Wow.
But
what the fuck?
And I would have lost my mind. But then like Mark tries to talk to Steven. We first hear silence, and then we hear like the tired grunts of Steven waking up as well. We find out that they are in fact one, and well, they're simpatico with each other finally. And Mark essentially jumps up, gets out of bed, and gets tricked by the rope because he's not Steven. He doesn't fucking remember this is a thing. And hits the ground, and the series ends the same way it started, with not Steven hitting the floor this time, but Mark with Steven.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful end. It really came full circle. The whole show was beautiful. Cinematography, CGI, characters, and their growth. I can't wait to see more from all of them.
A1.
But before we get into the post-credit scene, I want to hear your final thoughts, your final rating on this show.
I want to give it an A1 rating. My final thoughts, this was a great ride. I did not know a thing about the character really at the beginning. Now I feel like I know so much. I feel connected to Layla. I feel connected to Khonshu. I feel connected to Amit. I feel connected to Mark, and most of all Steven, because of my own personal demons. That rhymed. However, man, I have no complaints. So that's that. I am destroying property with my ring finger because I am that enthusiastic, everyone. So there we go.
But I couldn't agree more. Most people don't care about the comic storylines and the comic lore of these characters anymore. The MCU is what matters to this generation. As weird as that is for me to say, being a fucking comic fan growing up, and being a guy who's always like, well, this is weird from the source material. But this time it was completely different than the source material. And it was for the better. This series was top notch. We're 100% getting more. I'm honestly at a loss for really how to describe this show besides saying that it was a fantastic ride from start to finish. 8 out of 10. And that's not even including our final topic for the episode, the post-credit scene. Before we continue, I want to talk to you guys about the sponsor of our channel, Studio 5 Star. If you like pop culture graphic tees and decal stickers inspired by all your favorite comics, movies, and anime, then Studio 5 Star is the place for you. They have great product, better deals, and new limited time merch dropping weekly. Actually, one of those new designs happens to be our Doctor Strange inspired design, Strange Tales, which is available now on their Etsy store. Our previous design, Ancient Scriptures, is still available for the time being, but only for the next couple weeks, so get that while you can and use promo code PANELS at checkout for 30% off your total order. You can support the channel here by swinging by their shop of many things on Etsy, and you can follow them on Instagram at Studio 5 Star Official. Alright, so I guess Harrow is like comatose or brain dead, whatever. He's in an asylum in a wheelchair.
Sleepy.
Yeah, but not really, because he's able to interact later in the scene. But he's in an asylum, and he gets picked up by a man who's speaking Spanish, and he's wheeling him out, and we see a glimpse of a cabbie. Every comic fan or every Moon Knight fan knows what that means. And then we see him walk past a body that obviously he's the one who took out, laying on the ground, and he dumps Harrow into a limousine, kicks the wheelchair away, and Harrow looks in front of him, and who's sitting there but Khonshu. And he's pretty much like, you can't do anything to me. Khonshu's just like, yeah, but Mark doesn't understand how mentally fractured he actually is. And he introduces us himself by name to Jake Lockley.
Yep.
Jake Lockley turns around, and it is none other than Oscar Isaac playing yet another alter of Mark Spector. He's in the cabbie hat. He's, for some reason, speaking Spanish. And
deep tribal Spanish.
And he pulls out the blammy.
Yeah.
And he fucking
does those things.
He kills the shit out of Arthur Harrow. And it was a crazy post-credit scene. That's exactly what I want in a post-credit scene. It raised a lot of questions. My biggest one is, why is this guy speaking Spanish? And I would love if like all his different alters are different ethnicities.
Wow.
Because like the movie Split with James McAvoy, some of his alters were like women and stuff, like Patricia and stuff, and he would wear a dress. He had an alter who was a 6-year-old child named Hedwig, and that's the type of shit I want to see from these characters. I want to see actual physical transformations, because DID is not just you having like a fractured psyche. It is actual different people. I honestly do believe all the studies on that and stuff, that these are separate people just sharing a body. And I love that like Split and now this actually are differentiating between those personalities, because
definitely
like the comics in Moon Knight, like Jake Lockley has a fucking mustache and stuff. Like obviously it wouldn't be to that extent, but like the fact that like Mark's hair changes and stuff when he's Steven compared to Mark.
Could you imagine if like he just like would turn into Jake and just
and it just grows out like
just fucking
like fucking Fez
throws it on?
That'd be
comedic.
That'd be crazy. But yeah, this post-credit scene left us wanting so much more, and obviously confirmed that we were going to be getting more, despite anything Oscar Isaac and any producer says. We are getting more Moon Knight, and I cannot wait for it. You guys can find my co-host and check out his new prospect, Comic Buddies 214, on all forms of social media at @TildaN, and you can check me out on Instagram at RoachTheBoyWonder. There you get updates on this channel, you can get some pretty cool artwork, and you can even hit me up for all your art commission needs. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when we drop our Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness review coming later today, and we cannot wait to see you guys there.
Today's gonna go so slow.
That's for sure, man.
That's all I know, but one other thing that I do know is we will catch you next time here on Pages, Pictures, and Panels. I'm your host, TildaN, with my co-host, Roach Boy Red.
And guys, may the 4th be with you.
Peace.